once you stop learning, once you're not curious anymore, life is over.
When you ran away from home when you were 14, how did you end up in a kitchen? Was it because it was familiar from working with your mother?
I want people to learn. I want people to get better, because you do a much better job if you love what you do than you don't like it.
How did Johnny Carson influence your frozen pizza business?
Oh, you know about that, huh?
We all gotta eat and we all gotta start somewhere. Today's guest on the show is one of the most recognizable names and faces in all of food today. You know him, you've probably eaten a box of pizza with his face on it. He operates more than 100 restaurants around the world. Please welcome the legend, Chef Wolfgang Puck.
Hello.
Chef, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure to be here, and I think it looks like we're going to get something to eat here.
We are going to get something to eat. We're going to get a couple things to eat, because today we're sort of telling the story of your life and your success through food. We're going to start with a struggle meal from your childhood, then get into a meal that you ate during the hustle period as you were building your businesses, and then finally get into the success portion where we actually get to really enjoy the food.
And what we're going to drink?
Can we get this man some champagne? I'm so sorry. Listen, hospitality is dead. We didn't offer you a drink on the way in. There's no amuse-bouche here.
Okay, but the drink will do.
Chef, for your childhood struggle meal, we have one, a rum and coke. We'll get to that story later, but it plays into his childhood, inexplicably. And then we have the Kantner Kasnoodle.
Huh?
Kantner Kasnoodle?
What the f***?
Yeah? I don't know what the f*** I'm saying.
Okay.
How do you say this?
You're a different language. Kärntner Kasnudeln.
Kärntner
Kasnudeln. But you said it pretty good. I'm joking.
My Corinthian accent is terrible, but I only speak standard Swiss German.
Oh, okay.
But this is a potato dumpling from your childhood, where you grew up in Austria in a house without running water, without indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
And I know you dealt with a lot of abusive situations when you ran away from Austria to work in kitchens in the south of France when you were only 14 years old.
Yeah.
It's truly an incredible story.
Well, I think sometimes hardship makes you work harder and makes you more resistant to failure. And to me, it was always that no was not an answer. When I left my home at 14, I said, whatever somebody said, I said, no, I will do it. I will do it. I tried to jump in the river once, and then after an hour looking down, I said, I'm just going to go back and see what happened. And then the chef, I was hiding in the vegetable cellar and peeling onions and potatoes and everything. And the chef one day came down and said, what the heck are you still doing here? And then I was sitting down and I had my potato bags next to me, and he grabbed me in the back and said, get the hell out of here. I said, I'm not leaving. I screamed as loud as he did. And I was like 4'8" tall, this tiny little shrimpy guy. Finally, he called the owner of the hotel, and the owner said, okay, we have another little hotel here in town. Maybe we send him there. And there we had the woman as the chef, and she actually said, do your job and be quiet, everything will be okay. And that's the beginning.
Fast forward, you're here with me eating Kärntner Kasnudeln.
Yeah. Sehr good.
Kärntner Kasnudeln.
Yeah.
When your mother made this, would she make it look like this with all the frills on the outside, or was it a lot more humble of a dish?
It was a little bit more humble. She put parsley on top, or sometimes a little salad on the side or on top. We used to fight who gets more, who can eat more. It used to be one of our favorite. From my stepfather, who ate the most, and whatever was left over, my sisters and me ate them.
Now, whenever you eat anything, are you analyzing it, or do you ever just get to shut your brain off and just shove food?
I do both. Sometimes I get into it, and the filling is very good. It has a little mint taste.
So your mother was a pastry chef, I believe, right?
A chef, yeah. She made pastries too in a resort hotel in Carinthia. And so every summer I used to go and help her. And for me it was great. I could eat ice cream and I could eat cakes and help the pastry chef and help my mother. That was when I was 11, 12, 13. And as soon as school was over, got my luggage and left the house.
Yeah.
Because my stepfather was a terrorist. He was terror.
Yeah.
All right, let's taste. My favorite drink is from my childhood. I shouldn't say it because I might get still arrested for it.
Statute of limitations has passed. I think you're in the clear.
Okay,
you have diplomatic immunity here.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's rum and coke was my childhood favorite drink.
I want to ask, when you ran away from home when you were 14, you could have gone into any profession. How did you end up in a kitchen? Was it because it was familiar from working with your mother?
I grew up in a small village next to a farm.
Yeah.
And driving the tractor was one of my favorite things to. Often before going to school, I woke up at 4 a.m, helped the farmer who was like a young guy too, and helped him. And I was driving the tractor, and he was sitting in the back and put the seeds in the ground for corn or whatever it was. And my stepfather wanted me to become a mechanic or a mason or a carpenter, anything except cooking, because he thought cooking is for women. Mm-hmm. Because every woman at that time from a family, they cooked at home. The men were not cooking. But for me, it was really a way out. I didn't like it that much at the beginning. You know, when you're peeling potatoes and onions and cleaning the stove and the floor and everything. And I remember we had a charcoal stove.
Yeah.
Now you're all gonna think that was in the 18th century. It wasn't that long ago.
It was only 1875. It was actually pretty recent.
So it was only after 3 years I moved to France. And then first to Dijon in Burgundy, I learned about wine, and I became a real good connoisseur about wine, but only Burgundy wines.
Yeah.
And then after that, I moved to Beaumanière, and that changed my life.
Yeah, Beaumanière, that's the south of France?
South of France, in Provence, yeah, a 3-star restaurant. The owner was so passionate about food, about the product. He had 6 gardeners. We got the best green beans, tomatoes, or strawberries, whatever it is. It was amazing. We got baby lamb. I mean, 1 leg of lamb was for 2 people. And he was the first one who actually looked at me and said, great job. And whenever he went on vacation, even I wasn't the chef, I was making the sauces, he said, Wolfgang has to be here. He cannot take off when I'm gone. And that made me feel really good. I said, oh my God, finally somebody liked me.
Well, no, because I know your stepfather and also the first chef that you worked for, that I know both of them have said something to you to the effect of, you're good for nothing, which is, I think, the worst, most damaging thing you can tell, especially a 14-year-old, somebody who's developing.
I know. I think it's terrible. And I look back at that and I said, you know, how can a grown-up person, you know, tell their kid, you're good for nothing, you're never gonna be anything in your life. You know, you're gonna come home and they're gonna have to give you money and everything. I mean, it's so sad. Instead of encouraging somebody, they did exactly the opposite. They put you down. And the first chef was just as bad. You know, he used to be drunk all the time and say, oh, you're good for nothing. Go back home to your mother. I said, before I go home, I'm going to kill myself. I'm not going home. So I didn't go home and I didn't kill myself. So I continued.
So many people who have dealt with abusive situations like that, they end up internalizing it and then maybe even without knowing, repeating that downward to people who then work for them.
Yeah.
How have you been able to prevent that? Because by all accounts, I actually interviewed you about 10 years ago at the Hotel Bel Air. I was working for Los Angeles Magazine at the time, and you were doing the Oscars dinner. And I interviewed some of your chefs as well. And the amount of admiration they had for your leadership style was just through the roof. You could tell in the way that you talked about the people that worked for you with so much respect and care. There's obviously a world in which you could have repeated those patterns of abuse.
You know, I was pretty rough when I was really young. I didn't let them come in the kitchen. They had to write me a note and said, okay, Wolfgang, can you make us something for lunch? So they brought me the note and said, we want fish today or we want meat today. And I said, okay, I'll make it as long as they don't come in the kitchen. But then I went to Maxime's in Paris. And one time I yelled at one of the chefs. The executive chef came over to me and says, I hear your voice one more time. Here's the exit.
Wow.
I said, oh shit, I don't want to leave Maxime's. You know, it's a 3-star restaurant and everything. And I said, okay, I'm going to calm down. And from then on, I really got calmer and calmer over the years. But also insecurity often makes you act up. Once you feel a little bit more secure, you say, okay, instead of yelling at somebody, you show them how to do it.
Yeah.
Like the last time I really yelled was when I was at Ma Maison. I remember Cat Stevens. I don't know if you remember him. He was at the restaurant and he wanted some soft-boiled eggs. I said, I'm in a French restaurant. He wants soft-boiled eggs for dinner. Patrick comes and says, Cat Stevens gonna leave. It's already half an hour. He's waiting for his 5-minute eggs or whatever. And finally, I got so pissed off. I took the 2 eggs out of the water with a ladle and grabbed them in my hand and said, you want the eggs? Here are the f***ing eggs. The eggs went on the wall. Him had egg yolks on his face and everything. It was crazy.
Yeah. So only to Cat Stevens can you get a little prickly.
Yeah. So, but after that, when I opened Spargo in 1982 in January, I built an open kitchen, the first restaurant with a total kitchen in the middle of the dining room. So I told everybody, we have to be quiet. We cannot swear. We cannot shout. So I had to lead by example. So, and I did. And the rest is history. Now I'm in a positive mode. I want people to learn. I want people to get better, and I want them to enjoy what they do. Yeah. Because you do a much better job if you love what you do than you don't like it. Or if you like the person, then you don't like it.
Yeah. If you're working out of love versus working out of spite.
Yeah.
You can get results in both, but only one of those is actually going to
last.
And
I think if you find people, show them what passion means, show them what love means, and show them what hospitality means. And then I think you get that together, and you might be successful.
For your hustle meal, during the years when you're really building your business, we have hachis parmentier. This is the francophilic version of a cottage pie or shepherd's pie. And so you made your way out to Los Angeles in 1975, I believe, to helm the kitchen Ma Maison with restaurateur Patrick Tarai. And you really changed the way that people viewed fine dining, especially in 1982 when you opened your flagship Spago. And this represents the hustle years.
Yeah, this represents the hustle years, but also to show people you can make something delicious with very little, really, you know? So this is, you can use leftover meat or ground meat or like meat like you would make for chili or something like that. Just put it on a plate, not on the table, please.
I tried. I'm never going to get that job at Spago.
Okay.
You should see me debone a sole, though. I'm incredible. Sole Meunier chef, I'm up there whipping it up like a samurai.
Oh, my God.
I lied to you. I'm not doing that.
Okay, Byron, I think we're going to give him a job. We have problems with people deboning in front of the guests.
My hands will be shaking.
Yeah. It looks good. It smells good.
Fresh out the oven.
Yeah. This is like soul food for me too. Mm-hmm. You eat that, makes you feel good, especially in the fall and the winter. This is a perfect dish. And you also can make it with sweet potatoes.
How much have you seen the world of kitchens change since you started to now? Because I grew up in the era where thinking that being a chef was a cool, fun, artistic job because I grew up watching people like you on my TV. I grew up reading Anthony Bourdain. But when you started as a cook, even coming out to LA in 1975, how were chefs viewed in the world?
Well, at that time, chefs were generally in the back of the house or down in the cellar where the kitchen was. They were never out to see the guests. When we opened Spago, the kitchen became the center, the heart of the restaurant. And I thought, for me, it was perfect because I could see what's going on in the dining room and in the kitchen. And I also wanted to show people that we use the best ingredients. One time, I served Sidney Poitier, and he had a whole group of people with Joan Collins and some other famous people. And I served them a dessert with strawberries. I think it was a strawberry millefeuille. And the strawberries, and they said, Wolfgang, I never saw strawberries so red. Did you paint them or whatever? I said, no, I just got them from the farm and they picked them really ripe. What you got in the supermarket tastes like shit. So to me, great cooking always starts with great products. Yeah. Once you have great products, it makes it easy.
What's crazy is now that sounds so familiar because, again, I've been hearing people like you say that for so long. But at the time, that was a very revolutionary idea that you were using local products in restaurants with high-end fine dining, whereas before it was all about importing luxury items and cooking it with the same overcooked vegetable medley, even at the best fine dining restaurants. At that time, did you understand that there was a revolution happening?
No, we were part of the revolution then.
Yeah.
It was started really around 1980, but where really innovation started was in California.
Yeah.
And especially in LA. And people always think, it's New York or Chicago or San Francisco. New York and Chicago, San Francisco, they always had great, they call it continental restaurants, a mixture of...
It's such a dirty word at this point that you have to put quotes around it. Yeah.
I know. Nobody ever wrote California cuisine. People didn't know what it was. Like I remember when we opened Spago in Tokyo, all the journalists asked me, what is California cuisine? We know Chinese cuisine, Italian cuisine, French cuisine. I said, you know where California is? We use ingredients, main ingredients, what we have in California, but also our cuisine is the mixture of the different cultures who live in Los Angeles or in California. So we have a lot of Asian influences. So when I started Spago, for example, we were the first Caucasian restaurant or not Japanese restaurant to serve raw tuna. That didn't exist in restaurants.
Yeah.
We really changed the way America eats in California.
How comfortable were you being, at this point, not just Wolfgang Puck, the chef and cook, but Wolfgang Puck, the brand, the front man, effectively the maitre d'? Because as I understand it, like in France, the maitre d' is almost more famous than the chef in certain cases, right? The maitre d' has all the facing of the customer.
In a lot of these restaurants, the owner, manager, maitre d', you name them, were the most important people.
Yeah.
But for me, Mr. Tuillier at Beaumanier was my example. He also walked into the dining room, talked to the guests. Yeah. I still remember as a young kid, he brought Picasso in the kitchen. And because I was making...
Wait, like the Picasso, the Pablo,
yeah,
the one.
The Pablo one, yeah.
That's crazy. I just didn't expect that.
Yeah. I was making a duck sauce, and we always put red food coloring in. I said, I was stirring the sauce, and he looked in and he said, oh, you paint also? I said, no, that's my duck sauce.
That's crazy.
And I remember the best one was when he brought Elizabeth Taylor in the kitchen. I'm the most beautiful woman in the world. I want to be like him. Not just because of the famous people who used to come there, but because of his passion for food.
How did Johnny Carson influence your frozen pizza business?
Oh, you know about that, huh? Johnny was one of our regular, every Friday night he used to come to Spargo.
Yeah.
One time he asked me, he wants to take some pizzas home. A week later he says, make me 10 pizzas to go. Finally I asked him, one day I said, Johnny, what do you do with 10 pizzas? He said, I put them in the freezer. I looked at him, you put my damn pizzas in the freezer, I'm not giving you pizzas anymore. You know, that's sacrilege. And he said, no, I put them in the freezer, and when Don Rickles or Bob Newhart or any of my friends come over, we play cards late in the morning, we get hungry, and then I tell my houseman, I said, just put the pizza in the oven for 10 minutes, and we all have pizzas and a little vodka or whatever.
Smart guy.
Yeah. So I cooked some, took them home, put them in the freezer for a few days, and then cooked it, and I said, you know, it's a little dry. Then I cooked it halfway and put it in the freezer, and then I cooked it again, and I said, you know, it tastes really good, almost as good as the fresh one. So then I said, okay, let's try frozen pizzas, because Johnny already freezes them at home. So we started in a few supermarkets like Gelson and so on, and made frozen pizzas for them, and we became successful, so then we expanded.
My dad didn't know anything about food. We didn't have any money to go eat out. The Olive Garden was the fanciest place that we went for our birthdays. I took an interest in food, and I'd be watching Top Chef, and I'd see you judging on Top Chef as a wee little lad. And my dad would go, hey, we can buy that guy's pizza in the supermarket. And so there I am, you know, the guy from Top Chef on my screen at home. I'm able to put it in the oven, and those experiences genuinely meant a lot to me.
The world is really unlimited. Yeah. So what was once only a chef in the kitchen somewhere, nobody knew their name, all of a sudden the chef becomes the center of food and restaurants. And you know, these days, nobody knows a maitre d' anymore. Nobody knows who the owner is, or the owner is not that important, or the investor is not that important. The only one important is the guy who makes the food, or the woman who makes the food, you know? So to me, this is really what chefs have become. Not only running their own restaurant, but also running a business. Because it is really important for a chef, not just to be a great cook, to be a great manager, but also to be a good businessman. Because if you're not a good businessman, you're not going to stay in business.
And for the first time in Hustle Meals history, we have two success meals here. We have the traditional caviar setup. We have some golden osetra and some traditional osetra caviar with the classic blini, shallot, sieved egg, and chive. And then over here, we have, this is a little bit of a modern invention, the caviar with fried chicken with some Calabrian chili aioli and black truffle honey. Because Wolfgang, you now run an operation with more than 100 restaurants around the globe, every continent except for Antarctica, I believe, but I'm sure you're coming there soon with the Wolfgang Puck Express. And your son Byron, who has a very impressive resume by yourself, having worked at Guy Savoy, at Le Bernardin, all across the globe, are preparing to take the reins. What an incredible story.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's just fun to honestly hang out with my dad every day and fall in love and be passionate about the same industry. I mean, we both love food. We get to eat together 3 times a day because we work together every single day. And as you've seen, I mean, he's the plethora of stories.
Truly.
So, you know, it never gets boring. We're laughing all day long.
Talking about story, where's the smoked salmon pizza? What the heck? That's why I came here.
We 86 the pizza 2 hours ago, Chef. You got to get here earlier if you want the pizza.
Good. Sold out the pizza. All right.
So we have the Krug champagne as well.
Right.
Byron, I hate to put you on bartending duties again, but I mean, tell me about champagne as, the ultimate sign of success.
Everywhere, success is celebrated with champagne.
Yeah.
Success could be an anniversary, a birthday, it could be in a race, it could be getting a new job. Champagne makes it very festive, very elegant, and especially if you're not cheap like you. You are
We got
amazing.
a budget.
You have an amazing budget, luxury budget. I didn't know. I had to drive to Burbank. I thought we're going to get some cheap champagne here, but no, better than Beverly Hills.
We save on rent in Burbank so we can buy the expensive champagne. That's how it works.
Good job.
If
That's
you go to
what
Beverly
I love.
Hills, you got to serve Andre with the caviar.
You're right.
Byron, when was the first time you had caviar on champagne?
I don't know if I can remember that. I think my dad always loves to joke. He grew up on potatoes, and I ended up growing up on smoked salmon pizzas. I think it was one of the first things I ate when I was like 2 or 3 years old, was a bite of that smoked salmon pizza with the black caviar on top. But I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah.
It's still my favorite dish in this world is just having that smoked salmon pizza.
The funniest thing was talking about Byron and drinking. I remember we went skiing once, and I taught Byron how to, if you have wine, champagne, you don't do it, but you have a wine glass, you swirl the wine, you first a bouquet, and then you taste it. So we were skiing in a French restaurant, and I ordered a bottle of Pinot Noir for the family. Maybe 12?
I was going to say younger, but let's stick with 12.
Okay.
The tall 12.
So the sommelier said, okay. So he pours him the Pinot Noir. Byron takes the glass, goes like that, smells it, maybe tastes a little bit, and says, Papa, very complex. And you should have seen the sommelier say, shit, this kid knows about wine.
Gentlemen, cheers.
All right, cheers.
Really, what an honor.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us here. Look at that.
Are you going blini first?
What do you want to go first?
The blini are homemade. We're very proud of them.
Yeah, okay. You're very proud of the blini. Okay, you can have all the blini, we have all the caviar.
That's fine. I just want the blini and the sour cream.
Okay.
I haven't had my success moment yet. I'm still in the grind section.
Me too. We are only at the beginning. That's what I always tell people. You have to stay curious. You have to learn things all the time. That way you grow.
Yeah.
Once you stop learning, once you're not curious anymore, life is over. So we stay curious until the end. Okay, we're going to taste the difference. You can say the difference of the color. You can see it has this golden look, and the other one is dark. But at the end, it's the taste. The color doesn't mean it's better or not better.
Yeah.
But I like this one.
Of all of the luxury items that have the high ticket price, from Piedmontese truffles to Osetra caviar, which one do you think is actually the most worth it? Do you think it's caviar?
Oof. I mean, caviar you can get so often, so I just love it. But now we're right into white truffle season. We're getting really
coming
close.
Up, yeah.
And for me, I mean, that's just such a versatile ingredient. You can use it on so much different.
A little more for you.
Different
Thank
cuisines.
you, Chef. Thank you.
Okay.
So I love white truffles personally.
Yeah. I'm
So-
more of a Scirocco guy myself.
Yeah. Awesome.
Scirocco?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Cod sperm, baby.
Yeah,
That's what makes a
wow.
man.
Oh my God.
It's actually really good. Cheers.
It doesn't get any better than that.
Truly. Hey,
Osetra caviar, blinis, and Krug champagne.
honestly.
Cheers to everybody out there. Everybody should celebrate like us.
Anthony Bourdain actually wrote really poetically about the greatest tasting thing in the world is working a hard shift on the line and then that first sip of a cold beer after. He said there's no way to possibly recreate that. And Byron, you're somebody that you didn't have to work as hard as you did. I've seen your resume. I'm just hearing you talk. I know how much work you put in. What actually drove that? Was it coming from your dad, or do you think a lot of that was just sort of your own internal drive?
A lot of it was from my dad, but also, just being ambitious and wanting to be able to grow. There's always this sentiment, with being second generation, right? A lot of my job might be to maintain, but I always feel like that's so boring. The best thing for me to do in this life is to try and grow, to try and be better. and to try and build upon the amazing legacy that my dad set forth with all of these different restaurants. I told my dad one day, I was like, I'd love to try and work in the kitchen. I'd love to learn how to cook. And I joked at him, I was like, in a few years I'll take over. You don't have to worry. And then he took it so seriously. The next day he came to me, he was like, if you think you're gonna do that, I'll see you in the kitchen this summer. Yeah. And I was like, no problem, I'll be there.
Well, had you thought about that before, or was that the first time that the idea was introduced to you that, this could be somebody who ran your business?
You know what? I did not know. It was the funniest thing. At his bar mitzvah, he announced in front, we had 500 people. And he said, and don't worry, Dad, I will take over the business. And I said, oh, great. So everybody now knows. And I saw Rovita Powers, who was at that time the principal of the Center of Early Education. I saw her and I told her how proud I am of Byron, that he's working so hard and he's so passionate. And she said, what do you expect? He announced it as his bar mitzvah that he's going to take over.
We got to get to this fried chicken. The fried chicken's been staring me in the face. So this is your success I've made it meal. And we're grew up in the same era. We've been chatting about all the similar restaurant experiences that we've had in the past. The fried chicken with caviar thing, I think the first time I had it was at a food festival. And frankly, I think your dad might have put it in my mouth.
That sounds par for the course.
Tenderfest 2019.
Oh my God, yeah.
Tenderfest, was it you?
Yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah, that
was
me up at the front, and Chef Ari too.
Yeah.
And we were up there, and we're the only ones doing pork, actually, for that as well. We ran out of plates or something. I just ended up feeding people.
You were hand feeding people, fried chicken or fried pork, some sort of tender.
That was awesome.
With caviar. So your culinary contributions have been duly noted in my life.
I love that. It don't get better than that, man.
Yeah.
You hear so many success stories that start with a story of abuse, of hardship, of running away from home. People get it inside themselves that I am successful because of that hardship, as opposed to I may be successful in spite of that hardship.
Yeah.
As somebody who, everybody goes through their own battles and own journey, and I've met you 48 minutes ago. But having grown up with your dad in the position that he's in, where do you draw that sort of idea of success from?
Mainly looking at these people that are ultimately happy in life more than anything, right? Success, the lines of success can be drawn with just about anything.
Yeah.
And it's hyper personal in so many regards. For me personally, I love what I do. And that's success in and of itself.
Yeah.
It's rare that you really get that opportunity, I think, in life, to be so completely just utterly in love with what you get to do. So it can be little things, it can be big things. And it's just, for me, and I think for my dad in a lot of ways too, it's how you define happiness in your life. And if you can approach each day with trying to seek that out, right, in what you do, I think that's finding a lot of success.
Yeah. How would you judge success in Byron taking over the Wolfgang Puck enterprise, now the Byron Puck enterprise? What does a successful transfer of power look like to you?
I love that we have a family business.
Yeah.
I think hopefully it will continue. Hopefully Byron will grow it. And to see, I have 4 boys, all of them getting along well, and I think they're all gonna come to Byron for a free meal. I think so, and they deserve it too. So
you get 2 comp meals per month.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, and I think that's really special to have a family business. And I think he moved in, and everybody respects. Why? Because he works harder than anybody.
Yeah.
He is smarter than the father. So I think, what more do they need?
Smarter, taller, more handsome.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's got
to keep it going.
Yeah.
Butter it up.
No, but for real, we're at peak Nepo baby discourse in the world. And now, did you feel like you had to overcompensate for that by working harder, or it was always just, I want to get in and do the work?
I really think more than anything, it was, I know how hard this business is by watching my family for my entire life. And, I get asked that question often, it must be big shoes to fill, or it must be a lot of pressure. And I always respond with, my dad wears about a size 10, so I think I'm okay on the shoes front.
Wear a size 10? I wear a size 10. That was you were saying.
And then, but pressure truly does build diamonds. Yep. I think now more than ever, you couldn't be more correct on the Nepo baby front. I don't know if it was overcompensation because of that existing in society now. it's more so that this industry is exceptionally difficult, but exceptionally rewarding at the same time if you're willing to put in the effort to get the most out of it. And that's really the only way that I see it, is by working hard, you can grow new restaurants, grow people, grow a company and a brand into something greater day by day. But that constant pressure is necessary on everyone, and yourself included.
It's funny when you say that this all works because people respect you, but I think a lot of it is because you have earned the respect so clearly, right? Just from the way you carry yourself, to your resume, to the amount of hard work that you've put in. So I just want to raise a toast to both.
Okay, give me a little more.
For you.
We never cheer with an empty glass.
Barkey, if he listened, he's good, he has respect, he's earned it, but also he's slow on the refill.
Thank you.
That's it? There you go.
I was only doing it to be polite. But truly, this has been such a spectacular meal. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Such a pleasure. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
And good health.
To good health.
And may the show be number 1.
Everyone, rate us 5 stars. Say no. For real, this is fantastic. You got anything to plug?
Our famous barbecue. We used to do a barbecue at the Bel Air Hotel when we were involved at the Bel Air, but we are not. So now we are doing across from Spargo at this Beverly Garden there, next to the Mayborn Hotel. So with us at the Mayborn Hotel, plus chefs from Tulum, chefs from Texas, all barbecue chefs, like Eric comes from Tulum and makes this barbecue fish, which is amazing. So we're going to have a great party, but also we always try to give something back. And I think already with Meals on Wheels for many years we did it. Now we have No Kids Hungry, so we're going to give money for children. You know, they cut so many of these things now with the government. So we want to be sure that we give some money to kids who have less.
It's going to be an amazing event too. I mean, it's my dad and I are going to be there, and we have Evan Funky coming from Funky in Beverly Hills, and Nancy Silverton, who's worked with us for ages and we love, and so many great just artisans of barbecue too. And that's really what the event is about, sharing in good food, good drink, and then giving back to a great cause as well. So we're really excited. October 19th.
18 or 19?
19th.
19.
October
okay.
19th. Say it one more time. October 19th. Don't forget. Beverly Hills Barbecue off of Cannon Drive. It's going to be, honestly, the best food and wine event of the year.
Yeah. Special appearances by me. I'll be sure.
All right. There we go.
Hammered eating barbecue. Can I get free admission if I show you my No Kid Hungry lower back tattoo?
Okay, good.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, actually.
You might think this is a joke. It's real and it's there.
Is it actually?
Uh-huh. Here,
oh, no. Well, now we need to
you.
know. I mean, free ticket, easy for that.
They're very high-waisted pants, but if you really sag them down...
Dude, you're pulling those low. You gotta be kidding me, man.
Yeah. You know?
Holy shit. All right. I never thought I was going to get caught up on that one, but I guess one free ticket, the rest of them going to a good cause, so please come by. But we got one on the books.
Thank you so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. We're ending every video like that again. Good Mythical Evening is blasting off on October 23rd at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, so get your tickets now at goodmythicalevening.com.